Hi, this is Karen Roy. This is another episode of Life Possible with a Disability, and I'm here with my friends Cody and Chris, and they are both employees of Motion Composites. And I've gotten to know them over the years through different fun activities, whether that was advocacy related or industry related. So, Cody, why don't you tell us a little bit about your title, what you do, and the kind of the story of Motion Composites?
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. And thanks for having us, Karen. My name is Cody Verrett, and I'm the Vice President of Sales at Motion Composites for the U.S. And I've been in the industry for 24 years. And Motion Composites was founded 12 years ago by two individuals who were tasked with, at the University of Montreal, creating a meaningful application for carbon fiber. And with that, they went out and sought all different products and realized that wheelchairs were really heavy and in a lot of ways very archaic in the design and could really be made improved in their efficiency. So they set out to do that, and they created the lightest folding wheelchair on earth, the Helios C2. And from there, they expanded that over the last 12 years, last decade, into aluminum products. And we really focused solely on ultralight manual wheelchairs, but that's our core strength, was creating more efficiency and lighter products for consumers.
Yeah, and that I was learned recently, because I guess I'm so focused on the carbon fiber whenever I'm around you guys, that I didn't really realize that you make that same chair because of insurance reasons. A lot of times, sometimes there's difficulty getting coverage for carbon fiber, which is ridiculous, and part of what another advocacy thing we should work on, because people that don't push a chair for 34 years or a year or a minute actually shouldn't really be making decisions about what's best for us, in my opinion. But so next is my friend Chris Collin, and we been at tons of events together. I think we got to know each other best at the Roll on Capitol Hill through United Spinal Association, where we explored DC in the middle of the night and drank a really gigantic
mule.
That
was huge.
Yeah, mule together. Yeah, pre-COVID. So stop judging us right now. There were about 20 straws in like a vat of mule concoction. Right?
Yep, that was huge. I still have the picture. That was a great night.
It was a great night. Yeah. So tell us a little about what you do for Motion Composites, and then we'll talk a little bit about our advocacy efforts together.
Yeah, so I'm the New England Territory Manager. So I take care of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island for Motion Composites. And
you can't tell, but Chris is also a wheelchair user.
Yes, yep. Coming up on 13 years, so in less than, or just right around 2 weeks, I'll be 13 years in a chair. So, yeah.
Yeah. Tell us your story, your injury story.
Yeah, so I was in a motorcycle accident, T5, which is about chest level for those of you that don't know. I was on a motorcycle ride going to an appointment, and I was late. So I ended up putting all my gear on because I knew I was going to be going fast. Just didn't know how fast I was going to be going. It ended up being a lot faster than most people would go. But I came around a corner about 100 miles an hour, and as I came around the corner, a car was backing out of a driveway, and instead of hitting them, I bailed off into the woods and hit a tree. And that left me paralyzed from the chest down, which I'm super lucky to not have a brain injury and have even more of an extensive injury or even death. Because, I mean, I was in the hospital for 3 weeks in a drug-induced coma, which they didn't know if I was going to live or die. So I was super lucky to come out of it. Yeah.
I'm really glad you
Yeah, me too.
Oh, yeah. It's so funny because I guess whenever I'm around you, and occasionally I hear the really strong, is it because you're from Maine?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That Maine accent
It's
out
the oot
really strong. Some of those words that come out. Yeah. Yeah. Now, Chris is a quad.
Para.
But you are a para.
T5.
What level are you? Oh, T5.
Yep.
So I'm a T10, so I have more core strength.
Yeah. I'm kind of like quad in a way because a lot of quads have that same level of injury, well, not the level of injury is up in the neck, but their ability is actually still
Function.
from the chest up. So I just don't have I have a little bit more strength in my arms than a lot of quads do, but still pretty close to a quad in that aspect because of the core, and less core for me. So
yeah, it is high as far as core muscles go. And there are a lot. I have several friends like Justin Richardson that also works. Cody and Chris know him through advocacy efforts as well, and he runs our New Motion Foundation. But he had a treatment in Israel. He's a quad, but he got some return. So when you're incomplete versus complete, that makes a difference. But like Chris is a manual chair. Justin's a manual chair user also, because he got a little bit of gain back, but still has a lot of core muscle issues as well, which kind of brings us back to the carbon fiber story. For those of you that aren't familiar, so there's aluminum. That's pretty much covered by everyone, right?
Yeah.
Aluminum material. But when it comes to titanium, which is the next most lightweight material that my wheelchair is made out of, titanium, typically you can't upgrade that if you are a Medicaid. If your Medicaid is your payer, you can't upgrade to titanium. And then carbon fiber is even lighter than titanium. And the reason it's important is because we are using our arms and shoulders and hands to carry the weight of our entire bodies from the date of injury or illness forward. Our arms were never designed to bear that kind of load and that continuous movement from pushing the chair the way that we do, in addition to the transfers that we do in and out of a car, in and out of bed, in and out of the bathtub or whatever. So when the lighter weight material basically makes us independent and manual chair users for longer periods of time. So I think that's my confusion, or that's kind of what our advocacy efforts are directed toward, educating legislators and other lawmakers as to why these materials keep us actually costing less for a longer period of time. So I don't know, Cody, if you first want to expand on that, and then we'll go to Chris.
Well, one thing I would say is also in Medicare, they eliminated the ability for Medicare recipients to upgrade. So really, they've really limited and handcuffed a lot of individuals around the country, depending on their payer, on what they can and can't get. Even if that person wanted to pay out of pocket for the difference, it makes it very difficult. There is a choice where they can use the unassigned claim, but that takes a bit more work, and they have to lay out the capital for the whole chair up front. So it's a bit of a challenge, and what we need to do as an industry is advocate for better solutions, better materials, better tools, and better reimbursement across the board for ultralight manual chairs. They're way underfunded, and we really need to make that case. And just like you said, the lighter the material, the easier it is for you to pick it up. A manual wheelchair user may transfer as many as 25 times per day. So picking that chair up and maneuvering it, having it lighter weight. The other thing we found with carbon fiber is that the vibration damping properties that are so wildly popular in the cycling industry translate right over to the manual wheelchair industry. And it makes a big difference for the consumers. It increases their endurance, reduces spasticity and tone, decreases fatigue, gives them more endurance throughout the day to be able to do the things they want to do with their family and their loved ones. And Chris is a perfect example. He brought to us, when we hired him, this uniquely authentic experience that we just can't, it's impossible for us to replicate. And Chris's input has been instrumental in a lot of different ways for us in the company. And his experience now, he's been using carbon for a year, and I'll let Chris tell you guys what that's been like.
Yeah. I always went for a rigid chair that was as light as possible, and I went with Highlight for many years. And then when I got into the carbon fiber, I was like, oh wow, they seem to be similar weights or whatever. Even though that I was going from a fixed chair to something that was actually adjustable. So the adjustable part was really an incredible thing too, because I dialed myself in a lot more than I would actually prior to that, because you're kind of stuck with whatever you pick for that option at the time. Whatever it's set at, that's where you're stuck with. With this, I've been able to dial it right in. So it's made a big difference in my posture and in my ability to get the right exact positioning. But the biggest thing was like Cody was talking about, is the vibration. So when I took it down the first time, I took it out my driveway, and I'm like, oh, I don't feel it that much, because it's just like a smooth surface. But then when you get on uneven surfaces, game changer. It was crazy. I was going down Portland area, which is very inaccessible, and there's a lot of like cobblestone and bricks and stuff. And I was going
probably like New Orleans.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was down there a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh, this is very familiar. Yep.
Yeah.
But that vibration that you get, and it kind of goes up. I got rods too, so it goes up into my rods, and then I feel it in my back. And then my legs would always vibrate off the foot plate, and I'd pull them back, and vibrate off, and pull them back, and none of that happened with the carbon. So I was very pleased with the outcome of that, and very excited. I was actually going to see one of my coworkers, Todd, and I couldn't wait to get there and say, hey, you have no idea how this feels. This is amazing. But he does. Yeah. He's also in a chair too, so he knew ahead of time what it felt like and everything. So it was great.
Yeah. So there's a couple of points there that you don't think of. So because I haven't experienced myself yet. So I think about the lightweight, but I forget about the vibration part. And then the reason that the titanium chairs are locked in is because of the weight of the material, you want to decrease the number of joints or the adjustability, because any place you have adjustability is going to add weight to the chair. But with the carbon fiber chair, it's so lightweight that you can keep the ability to adjust things, and then, like Chris explained, dial it in to make it really, really tight, almost like a sports chair, because any custom lightweight manual chair is going to be as dialed in or as tight as possible. But when you can make that extra little adjustment after the fact, that probably, it makes it really feel like an extension of your body, which is a properly configured chair should feel like an extension of your body.
Yeah.
But the other point I wanted to make is that Chris and Todd, he just mentioned Todd is also a wheelchair user. Maybe Cody can, October is Disability Employment Awareness Month. It's not October yet, but it's still an important point all throughout the year that hiring people with disabilities has many advantages. Not just that we are problem solvers and we're extremely persistent and all those sort of things, but in this particular industry, I don't know, Cody, I'm sure there are some advantages to hire people who actually use wheelchairs to help sell them.
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, being a salesperson and a natural public speaker like Chris is a God-given talent, and he has it in spades. So I had met Chris at an Abilities Expo, and I knew how he was with people and how engaging he was. So I had a feeling he'd be really good at this. But Karen, when I first interviewed Chris, and he told me that his rehab project was to rebuild the motorcycle that he had crashed, that he told you about in the story. I knew he was incredibly mechanically inclined, and that he could turn a wrench and solve problems for people in the field, which is a lot of what sales is sometimes in the CRT industry, is supporting the product, at the distance of the manufacturer there in the field with the ATPs and technicians, and making sure they feel comfortable with it too. So, and I just love bringing new, smart, talented young people into our industry, because if I think the average age of an ATP is into the middle to high 50s. So I'm really excited to bring young people into our industry anytime I can. And Chris was just a natural fit.
Yeah, I love him too. Both of you. So Cody, you brought up right before we started to record CRT Awareness Week. So you want to expand on that a bit and tell people how they can get more involved in advocacy if they'd like to.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, advocacy is probably one of the most important things you can do in this industry, because we're so small, we're so concentrated. It's so important that we carry that message forward to our legislators. And for anybody who's an ATP or a clinician that works in wheeled and seating and mobility, I just would really ask you to try and get on a first name basis with your 2 senators and your representative from your area. They should know who you are, and that when you reach out to them about important issues, that they're familiar with you and that you've gotten a connection with them. So I'd suggest making a small donation, and then you can get on their mailing list and then get engaged. And it's a great civic duty in general, but for our industry, we really need it. And Chris and I are both state leads for the fly-in, which is going to be on the 21st. I'm here in New
Louisiana.
Jersey.
I'm Louisiana, and Chris,
cool. And Chris is Maine.
Chris is Maine.
Yeah, so
3 states covered right here. Yeah, it's an amazing event. It's which normally done in person, which Chris and I are probably seeing a bunch of wheelchair users rolling around Capitol Hill is extremely impactful. I'm still sad that we're not quite there yet with the whole Delta variant and the things going on with COVID, but we will get back to it. But but regardless, however you can engage with your legislators and prove your relationship with them and get on a first name basis with them, it makes a huge difference. And they need their constituents to, first of all, they love their constituents. Okay. Right. It's our duty to explain, what we need and why we need it. And then actually how this is a cost savings in the long run. Because if you are in a properly configured chair with the right cushion, you're using the right materials, you're improving your health in the long run. And staying out of the hospitals is expensive. And,
active members of society. That's what we want.
Yeah.
Paying taxes.
Paying all those taxes. Yeah. Right. Exactly. That's what I always say. I'm like, don't you like it when I pay taxes? I think you do. And I've been able to do that a lot.
I would just close with CRT Awareness Week is the 20th to the 24th of September. And the fly-in's on Tuesday, the 21st, and there's going to be a lot of activities and things on social media, just talking about CRT awareness and the importance of it and what advocacy means to us. So it's really important.
And I'll share some of NARTS and NCART and United Spinal Association. All those are organizations where when I put this episode out, I'll put all that in the show notes. So if anybody's interested, I'll put their web addresses so they can go and kind of really dig into the legislation and figure out what's going on. In the current moment, we just got manual accessories permanently excluded from competitive bid, which we're trying to do for years. I know, right? And it's a huge win in one way, but we just, there's so many other areas where, like Cody said, we're still underfunded. Most suppliers are really not making very little profit on a manual chair. Unfortunately, it's almost, and the expertise that it takes to configure the chair and the products, the cost of them, we're barely covering it. I don't think that people realize we're just really barely making it when it comes to doing manual chairs. So I want to move on to why Chris is in a sailboat, like the elephant in the room here. And I know for those of you who are just listening and you can't see, but Chris is, you can see kind of the background. He's inside of a very large vessel. So you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So actually, I got hooked up with this sailboat through somebody I went through rehab with back in about almost 13 years ago now. I was down in Shepherd Center in Georgia, and I became friends with a bunch of people on my floor that were going through the same thing I was. We became support for each other and kept in touch over the years. And Dave McCauley is the guy that hooked me up with this sailboat. And what they do is they actually, this was built from the ground up. This whole vessel is built from the ground up. It's a catamaran, and it was built for people with disabilities. So you can have a full crew of people in wheelchairs running this vessel. So so they could do everything there on their own. And actually, the guy that built it from the ground up,
what's it
it's called the Impossible Dream. Yep. Okay. You can look it up on their website, Impossible Dream.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Is it the only one of its kind?
I think there might be one other, but it was for the longest time the only one of its kind. Yep. And it's been across the ocean a few times. So it's pretty amazing.
That
They
is
they got
amazing.
they got.
I've been
I was just gonna say they got 4 elevators on this, so they've got one on each
Really?
side, that you can bring you up onto the deck, and then to get
Yeah.
down
Wow.
inside the catamaran, they have one on each side to get down in those because that's where the beds are and the toilet.
I mean, those are the kind of things that people take for granted all the time, right? They just hop on any boat they
Right.
want to, right? And I've had to be carried on to because I'm just like I'm not just like you, but I've become very daredevilish now that my kids are a little older, actually. But I don't want to miss out, and if I need to get carried on by random strangers, I will get carried on. And but to be able to do it independently, to be able to move around the boat independently,
Right.
and stay on for long periods of time, is amazing. And I've been jealous. I've been watching you on social media for the last couple of days, like, oh, so mad, Chrissy. But yeah, no, I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah. And
It's really cool.
and they can bring power chairs on and everything. So I mean, it's not just limited to manual wheelchairs.
Wow.
So it's
Right.
a really good experience. And
Yeah.
like-
Well, I'll link that info too, because
Yeah.
so people can book a trip on this boat, right?
Yeah, so what they do is they go from port to port, all the way from Florida all the way up to Maine, and then back down every summer. And they try to hook up with a lot of different hospitals and other organizations, adaptive sport organizations, and kind of try to book around those people. So if you get in touch with an Impossible Dream, you can go through them, and they'll get you in touch with who the ambassador is for that port and try to get you on.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really cool. All right. Well, I have my plans for next summer now.
Yeah, they do day trips, and
Oh.
then they do so they just do day trips, a couple of them in a day, and then they do overnights also. So I'm on an overnight excursion here. So last night I ended up
Wow.
driving the boat from 9 to midnight.
I did
Yeah.
see that. I saw that. And then I also saw you like kind of like wake like your nap and then kind of waking up. I don't know if it was sunrise.
That was
or
the
something.
sunrise.
I think you woke
Yeah,
up from a nap and then you drove. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Looks like a rough life.
It's so rough. It is weird, kind of
Yeah,
the timing though, because we're on for a few hours to be the one up there, and then we come back
Okay.
and then keep on going back and forth. So take your naps in between.
Yeah.
It's
So
not like a regular 9 to
well,
5
yeah.
day, you know. So it's a little different.
Right.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, I'm also going to, in addition to the advocacy sites we talked about and to the Impossible Dream, I'll also link the website for Motion Composites. So anybody who's interested can, check out what they have to offer. And then maybe if they need to get in touch with y'all, they can, as far as maybe trying out a chair in their area, getting in touch with their like local manufacturer rep.
Yeah.
And of course, your local ATP with New Motion can help you find a motion composite chair. So anyway, you guys are some of my favorites. Thank you so much for joining me today. And we'll do it again. There's a bunch of things we could talk about. So
This is great. Thank you so much for having us.
Yes. Thank you.
of course. Yeah, thanks for interrupting your trip. So I'll see you guys next time.
All right.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks, Karen.
All right.
Bye.
All right.